Ooh.
Hello, everyone. All right, super excited. So, welcome back to 14 Minutes of Fame with Misty Henkel. Today, I have the wonderful Robyn Donaldson from Donaldson HS&E Matters. So, basically, Robyn is a workplace health and safety gal. Up here, I met you over at the Dolby Chamber of Commerce about a week and a half ago. We were chatting over at Black Toyota, and you've moved from being a work health and safety girl in in a company to doing this for yourself now. So which ultimately is generally, once we collect skills, I mean, that's ultimately where we end up, working for ourselves. So, Robyn, in this world of work health and safety, what is it that what do you do in the area of work health and safety, or what's the plans that you have for everybody with their work health and safety?
So there's a huge range of tasks that go behind it, but pretty much I've worked in health and safety to make it easier than saying workplace health and safety, just health and safety, in either construction roles, predominantly electrical construction, and in operational and maintenance on some of the sites as well. So, and I've been doing it for years now, probably 17, 18 years, I think I've been doing it. So, and it takes in everything from being there at the beginning of the project. So when they're starting up, when they're under the design phase, so that we can get involved in the safety and design elements of a project, to the construction, being on site, boots on the ground, which I absolutely love, being out in the field with the workers and stuff like that. And then into the operation and maintenance once a project or a site goes live. So I started out in substations and power lines with Energex many, many years ago. So all the poles and wires and stuff like that. And I've moved into renewable energy now. So battery energy storage and solar farms, which is the way of the future.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Is that like, oh no, solar farms, that's the sun ones with all the,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
call
yeah.
them sky panels on my roof. So I guess you and your
Yeah.
sky panels. Yeah, because we've got sky panels on our roof. So the solar farms are the ones with the panels. And then of course, I was thinking all of a sudden the wind farms, but that's different,
So
right?
wind farms are different. So in renewable energy at the moment, there's the solar farms, which are quite big in the Western Downs region. You'll see them everywhere from Toowoomba right through to Wandong, where I used to work. Um, there are wind farms, but the companies I've worked for in Australia haven't got into wind farms yet, but they're working towards it. There are wind farms out at Miles and I think Wambo out that way. And then there's another big one is the battery energy storage system. So you've heard of Tesla, or think like that. So they come in different designs, whether they're a battery within like a shipping container style of unit. The one that I've worked on out at Wandong is built in a massive big building with 4 different sort of halls where there's all these thousands of tiny batteries and stuff like that. And then there's a lot of companies are working in renewable and they're moving into hydrogen. So that's the water-based energy that I've still to learn a bit about.
Okay, so let's take solar, right? So there's the solar farms out here. Now, of course, we drive along. I know I've come from Canberra 2.5 years ago to here, and then I'd see some solar stuff. But you've now that I've got someone to ask the question of, like I would just see them on the side of the road and think, huh, wonder how they ended up getting that spot. I mean, I know that the sun is there, but how do they pick their spot? Does it belong to a farmer first? Does it belong to the government? Like, how does it get picked? Like the land.
So they do choose solar farms in areas where it's predominantly sunny, and so somewhere, no offense, Canberra, where it might be sort of windy or rainy a lot of the time, they might not build them down there as much, but they'll build them out in the country where there are large
Oh,
expanses.
out here is amazing, right? So the ones I'm thinking of in Canberra is I just remember there was a couple of small ones that I would see them somewhere. So based off that, yes, the direction of the sun, that's how that one worked. But let's take out here. Dead flat out here, pretty
Yeah.
much anywhere you put it. Have you ever seen the movie? What's it called? Hang on. It's not Bruce Almighty, it's the other one. Evan Almighty. And he
No.
was Noah. He turned into Noah, right? So he
Oh,
was
yeah.
building an ark. And God comes down and has talked to him and said, where this is getting built and where you're doing this. Like, I deliberately picked this area because the sun comes up in the east and sets in the west. and I put the valley running from east to west so that everybody got maximum sunshine. Now, it's funny when that was said in the movie, and I've gone, oh, that's interesting. I've never really noticed that about the sun. Then I move out here to the Western Downs and dead flat. And actually, that's exactly, I watch how the sun goes, going, okay, if I'm going to drive out of town, don't do that first thing in the morning, because you're going to have the sun in your face, and don't drive home at night, you know, like in the afternoon back the same way, because you're going to have the sun in your face. You know, you want to time that differently, because it's a direct, we've got this really lovely east to west setup. So
some of the solar farms that you'll see now, the solar panels are no longer fixed, because in the early days they were a fixed panel, so they'd be positioned one way and they'd get maybe the morning sun or the afternoon sun, but not both. You'll see them now that many are on trackers, so you'll see that they're through the day they're moving with the sun, so they're following the sun, which is really intelligent. And a lot of them now are built high enough off the ground so that they get the radiation off the ground as well, so that you're getting the sun top and bottom, so you're getting maximum benefit out of the sun.
Okay, all right, so how do you pick a spot? All this land out here in the Western Downs area, so how does the spot get picked?
So, some of the information that I know, so I'm not big on everything.
Yeah, you know, just basic stuff. Like, do they go to a farmer and say, we want to buy your farm? Or do they say, can we rent it? Or like, how does it work?
They do both. So a lot of the time they'll go to a farmer who's been a cattle farmer, for example, who's either downgrading or downsizing, whatever, because the land's already cleared. So you're not then going in and clearing land where there's lots of trees. So it's already land that's fairly clear. The company I was working for had solar farms on somebody's property in South Australia, and they had it for a 30-year lease. So after that time, the agreement would be that they'd remediate the land and give it back to the farmer. One of the ones up here, they bought the land outright, and then that way, over the years, because solar panels typically have a 25-year lifespan, and then after that time, they would be replaced. So they'd go through the whole process of replacing them.
Oh, okay.
And the good thing with that is, for people who are interested, is say 5 years ago, there was no one recycling the panels. There's a few companies now within Australia that are building and growing, and they'll be recycling those panels. From the whole panel will be recycled, all the glass, all the components, which is, in my opinion, a brilliant thing. That's people doing that now.
Yep.
So as I say, so 25 years, and as I say, so the land is largely flat or fairly even and undulate, like minor small rises and stuff like that, but it's already been cleared in most cases.
Yeah, okay. And so from your perspective now, working for yourself, like as your own business, I suppose the guys that want to make the solar farm, they could come to you and say, can I contract you to help us out with the work health and safety side of that?
Absolutely.
Or likewise, the guy who owns the farm, would then ask for help on, if I allowed this on my land, what is it that I need to know that's going to be either problematic or not problematic for me? So then he could call you to ask for help to understand how it works.
And that does work, because there's a lot of requirements, and I don't want to get too technical or too bogged down with details, but from a company perspective, you've got documentation that you need to have in place per legislation that needs to be in there. So that it might be a health and safety management plan, for example, that is written to make sure, and to get to a health and safety management plan, you do a massive risk assessment before you do that. So you go in with the subject matter experts, and you'll review the site and consider everything that could possibly go wrong in the life of the construction project and the operations and maintenance of O&M. And then you'll develop all your documentation, so your health and safety management plan, your safe practices of work and stuff like that. So, but then on the farmer side of things, I mentioned earlier when we were just chatting about this farmer that I know in the region who's been approached about having a solar farm built on his farm. So because I'm in the industry and I go to sort of various forums and belong in a number of groups around the region, I know that the fire brigade, for example, or the Queensland Fire Department, as they're now called, rather than QFES, so they have certain requirements about going on to solar farms. So if you've got a solar farm, for example, and you've got a bushfire, at the current situation, the fire brigade won't go onto your farm to put out a fire because there's electrical risks, for example. So they've got rules and regulations around clearing vegetation. So that farmer that I was talking to, I could talk to him about mitigating the risk of fires on his site by all the vegetation management and stuff like that, by also having on the perimeter of your fence on the inside, the fire brigade like you to have like a 10-metre buffer zone so that if you do have a fire, it won't escape your boundary and go outside, but it also gives them the option to come inside and put out grass fires and stuff like that.
Right.
There's also different equipment that they can buy that will fight a fire from if it's a grass fire, it'll fight that, but also a powder fire for electrical, which is a huge risk on these solar farms as well.
Yeah, right. Okay.
There's a huge amount of stuff that you got to consider.
There's so many things that you wouldn't even think, like the ordinary person would never even think of it, right?
Exactly.
But that is fascinating. I know that when we were chatting earlier, you were saying, you know, some other just tasks. You just happened to say in passing how, you know, you helped, you know, someone in your town who was just having a few issues at work and said, I don't understand the legislation. Any chance you can just talk to me about it? And then what would the letter be? And then you were able to sit down, talk to her, go through that legislation, and then help write that letter so that then it went to work. And then she ended up with a great outcome that came from that because the letter knew exactly all the rules that could go forward. So there's a lot of different little bits and pieces that come in with you and how you help. So not just big projects, you can do small stuff too, you know. Why quit work if you could just get some help from the person who knows how to talk to you about it in normal speak rather than, you know, being really big with their words, you know, that makes it very hard to understand. I believe you're a little bit like me in that I know with sales training, when I'm teaching sales training, and I've got and I've written 2 sales books, right? So on how to sell. And I know when people get these and read them, they say, my God, Misty, it's like you're sitting on my shoulder and whispering in my ear. And I know with you were saying that I think your line was, you know, my ultimate goal is to make myself redundant so that people just do it. And you had a little story of a guy with an apple where he's what happened there?
So look, it's a fairly common turn of phrase that a lot of health and safety people use, and it's pretty much that we want to train everybody up so that they can do all those hazard assessments or risk assessments and decide how to do it safely instead of potentially injuring themselves. So it is about teaching them well enough so that we become redundant. And look, I've got quite a few examples from where I used to work, and there was this guy that rang me up the other week because I think it was a year or 2 ago. He was cutting an apple in his hand, and I went, what could possibly go wrong? And he went, I could cut myself. And I said, sure, you can cut yourself. I said, how about you put it on a bench or a cutting board and stuff like that? So that was like easily a year ago. And then he's been overseas, he's travelled for a bit and came back, and he rang me the other week and said, I was thinking about you this morning, and he said, I was about to cut an apple in my hand, and I thought, what would Robyn do? And he put it down on the bench. But I've got so many stories because another guy that used to work with me, I got into his head as well, and he was walking on the footpath to work one day, and he saw this fence paling sticking out on an angle out of this fence, and he thought, somebody could get injured on that, I better fix it. So he fixed it, and he came to work, and he said, you'd be really proud of me, this is what I did and stuff like that. And I love those sorts of stories where the guys think about what's going to happen, what could possibly go wrong and stuff like that. But
love it. I'm going to give you a code, right? From now on, you can be known as WWRD. You could like put that on a business card, just write WWRD and have someone go, what does that mean? What would Robyn do? What would Robyn do? WWRD.
There's a good chance that one of your listeners put up with me in the traffic as well, because if I see somebody who's got a broken tail light or a tail light that's not working, brake light, I pull up beside them at the traffic lights and tell them that their lights.
Oh, heck, I think you've stopped me at some point. Let me know. I go home and I say, Simon, apparently one of my lights isn't working.
I do it all the time. I do it
on that.
Yeah.
Nice. I usually get women, you know, when their skirt is hanging out the car, just so that you know, it's in the mud. It's no good. Yeah. But yeah, tail lights. Yeah, absolutely.
Safety is definitely my passion. I live it and breathe it, and it's just what I like to do. I really enjoy influencing people not to get hurt.
It's not work when you love what you do.
I
Hey,
know, definitely
people
not.
say to me all the time, but Misty, what's your downtime? Running sales classes. No, but what's your downtime? Coaching. And because that is my downtime. To other people, it'll be like having a bath, but mine is I'm all bright and shiny when I get to talk to people
Yeah,
about what it is that they're doing and how are you selling that? And just let's just tweak a little bit, and then all of a sudden it works so much easier.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
Robyn, I've absolutely loved talking to you today with the lead up before we even got in. You're 40 minutes and it's been fantastic. And looking forward to seeing you around. I'll see you more at Dolby Chamber meetings. But I've loved chatting to you today. I'm sure everybody else has loved watching it as well. And thanks very much for coming out to 40 Minutes of Fame.
Tuning in, Steve.
Well,
Chat to you later.
bye.
Bye.